Well, hello, Nativity Bible heads. It is Dr. Wayne, and this is your Power Bible Study, Sunday morning Power Bible Study, 11:20. Hey, Exodus. I know that Father Scott didn't use this passage this morning. We chose the Jonah one. I want to continue teaching this track one. These track one readings, because they are what's called a semi-continuous narrative, and it hits on high points of the Hebrew Bible that are formative in the faith of our forebears. Now, one thing that we got to keep in mind with all of this is, so remember last week was the big crossing of the water, right? Pharaoh said, go. They left. Pharaoh changed his mind, came after him. The liberation, their freedom, actually happened when they left, because immediately, before they even got to the water, if you were to read the whole narrative of Exodus, before they got to the big miraculous, we call it miraculous, crossing of the water, they were already in the wilderness, because there were times when they were already complaining and saying, really, you brought us out here to die? And so not having water is going to come up, and then they cross the water, and then what comes up again? Water. No water. Today, in chapter 16, it's a crisis of food. But you know what's going to happen after the crisis of food? Yeah, water. There's always going to be something that is wrong. The pattern of God's dealing with the children of Israel. One thing we got to keep in mind here is that there is no religion yet. Do you realize that? Moses hasn't been to Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments, the Torah. The only thing they've had was, remember the instructions for the Passover? That was while they were in Egypt. And God said to Moses, hey, I need you to do this task. It's like Moses is still not, there's no religion going on. All there is a guy leading a band of people who believe that they are that they're destined for something bigger. They don't know what, really. Moses is leading them on a journey that they're really not sure. They're not sure about. You know what? It's really a lot like parenting. Think about it. You're born through water, right? And you know what? There's a relationship that develops between parent and child, right? It's tenuous sometimes, very testy, right? Very testy. You test your kids test you. I know I used to be a kid. I have not been a parent, but I've had parents. That's the way it goes. That's the way this relationship is in Exodus. We're not going to have that again, are we? That kind of thing. But I wanted that. Why can't I get that? I want that. Well, that's what's going on. And there's always something else that the people are complaining about. And it's very similar to the way we are when we are being reared ourselves. So here we are, chapter 16. I'm going to start with verse 1. Our actual passage goes just verses 2 through 15. I might not cover more than that, but let's just get into it. Verse 1 of chapter 16. The whole congregation of the Israelites set out from Elim, and Israel came to the wilderness of Sin. Now, where they were set out from Elim, that was just the place where the last little complaining incident happened. What was that complaining incident about? That was about water. And now, they leave there. So each place they go, there's like another incident. The wilderness of sin. What is the wilderness of sin? It doesn't have anything to do with the English word for sin. It's just what they called it. In fact, some translate use the letter Z just so that we won't make the mistake of making it sound just like our word for sin. The wilderness of Zin. But then again, maybe you don't want to call it the wilderness of Zin because maybe you got a Zin problem. Or maybe we'd love to be in the wilderness of Zin. Hey, pour me another glass of Zin. Oh, anyway, they came to the wilderness of Zin, which is between Elim and Sinai. So what this reminds us of, the narrator, what he's doing is reminding us that they're on their way to Sinai. Sinai is where their religion basically begins in the realm of commandments and such. And that's where the tabernacle is built. So that's the significance of it mentioning that it is between Elim, which means the last crisis of water, and the place where the commandments will be given, which is between Elim on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. So, about 2.5 months after they'd left Egypt. Apparently, they hadn't been getting the stuff to eat that they want. Look at verse 2. The whole congregation of the Israelites complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The whole congregation. Notice the word congregation. Very interesting. We don't see that word used very much with regard to Israel. Some scholars and commentators see this use of the word congregation to be a reference to them because, something that they weren't before the crossing of the turbulent sea, that the dramatic crossing of the sea. Now they're a congregation. Remember what it was said? Why was that? Why did the Lord do it? So they would come to believe in Yahweh, right? Now they're a congregation. But still, no religion. The whole congregation. All right, verse 3. We are in Exodus 16, chapter 16, verse 3. The Israelites said to them, who were they talking to? Yes, Aaron and Moses. They were brothers. They were both from the tribe of Levi. If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots and ate our fill of bread. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. It's kind of like the kids whining in the back seat. I'm hungry. When are we going to eat? Okay. If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt. It's like the Lord saved us from the water, but we're hungry and we're dying. Flesh pots. What are flesh pots? Flesh pots are something that you cook meat in to eat. It's like, think of like a pot roast or some sort of dish with meat, soup, I don't know, soup maybe, but definitely meat. The idea of a flesh pot meant that there was meat in the pot and you're going to eat it. It was like, smelling that casserole kind of thing. We don't use the word flesh pots, but, it's kind of like stew, something like that. We ate our fill of bread. Bread is a great filler-upper, right? If the kids don't like anything else, they'll eat bread. That's what I was always told. So they're really remembering fondly the food. It's like, this liberation thing isn't what it's cracked up to be. I think it would be better off if we had just, if at least we'd eat. At least we'd eat. I'm not so sure I know what to do with this freedom. This is one of the things that would, okay. I think that some of us who are devotees of Christ are still in a place in our lives where we don't know what to do with the freedom, the deliverance that we have been given. And we're still children with regard to how we see God and what we want from God. Wisdom, when we reach a place of figuring out, my freedom, my liberation frees me to do this, this, and this, and all to the glory of God. That's the goal. Some of us don't even get out of this. This is part of what this story of God's relationship with the Israelites, what it illustrates is how it is with this God. This God liberates. This God makes us free. What are we going to do with it? Oh, you know what? I'm not so sure I need it. I'd rather be under subjection. I'd rather be not free. I don't need that freedom. Treat me like a child forever. I don't need to learn that. I can get other people to do that for me. I'm going to be forever dependent on somebody else. It's that kind of a mentality. And God is trying to be the parent that pushes them forward, pulling them forward. And they're continually saying, no, let's go back. Let's go back and do that. This is what's going on here, folks. All right. For you've brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Goodness gracious, I've got a dry mouth tonight. So, then the Lord said to Moses. So God is speaking as this, all right, really? You want food? I'm going to show you food, okay? So here's Moses. Here's Moses, what the Lord says to Moses. I am going to rain bread from heaven for you. And each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day. In that way, I will test them, whether they will follow my instruction or not. Do you see how this is kind of a little bit like the just the opposite of a plague? Remember that back during those, we call them plagues, those wonders that God did that had the Pharaoh finally say, okay, go. One of them was he rained locusts. He rained, and the locusts did what? They ate all the food, and so there was no food. Well, here, the Lord is going to rain bread, so there will be food. How do you like that? It's like an anti-plague, just the opposite of what happened to the Egyptians. The Israelites are getting the good end of the stick. In that way, I will test them whether they will follow my instructions or not. That's an interesting thing. And I think I've seen this point before in Scripture where, remember the instructions for the Passover. Why so much detail? Well, you know what? That's what we need as kids, as people who are not knowing, can't find our bottom with two hands. It's like, okay, can you follow the simple directions? This is part of what's going on here. I will test them whether they will follow my instructions. Remember, this is not a mature relationship. It's not supposed to be at this point. And it reflects a stage of a relationship that all of us have with God. And the problem is, some people never leave it, and they're always in this way with God. Seriously. Some of the most miserable Christians you know, they're still here. Nobody here, I know nobody here is that way. Anyway, look at this next one. Next verse. Okay, rain bread from heaven to you, and each day the people shall go out. I'm in the middle of verse 4. And each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day. Oh, give us this day our daily bread. Interesting. In that way, I will test them, whether they will follow my instructions or not. Verse 5. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather on other days. Notice it doesn't say, go out and make sure you get twice as much. It just says that when you prepare and bring it in, it's just going to be twice as much. Isn't that interesting? Where it doesn't really say, now make sure you double up on Saturday or Friday so you have enough for Sabbath. No, it doesn't say that. It just says it'll just be twice as much. I love that. So look at this. Maybe we're going to get a different telling of that later. We have a lot of different traditions here. Verse 6. Exodus 16, verse 6. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, in the evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the evening, okay, got it. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaining against the Lord. For what are we that you complain against us? You come and you're asking, you think I can do something about your problem? I love that. Really? You expect me to handle your problem? Okay. All right. And in the morning, okay, evening and morning. That's what I wanted to talk about here. Evening and morning. So remember, the days began with sundown. Remember the creation motif, the creation story where it says it was evening and it was morning the first day, or it was evening and morning the second day. It was evening and morning the third day. There you go. The day begins at sunset. In the morning, you shall see the glory of the Lord. They don't know what yet. We haven't been told any details. They're just saying, well, you know what? By the end of this day, you're going to find out. Because he has heard your complaining. For what are we? And verse 8. And Moses said, when the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and your fill of bread in the morning. Notice it still hasn't said how the Lord's going to do it or what the Lord's going to do, just that, well, when it does happen. Wow. Because the Lord has heard the complaining that you utter against him. What are we? Your complaining is not against us, but against the Lord. So they had to go back, Aaron and Moses had to go back to the people after the Lord told them, hey, you know what? I'm going to give them what they need. And they go to the Israelites and say, okay, you're going to get what you want, but it's the Lord's going to give it to you. It's not going to be me. I don't know why you got to lay it on me, but, you're not complaining against me. You're complaining against the Lord. You got to remember something here. They don't even know the Lord yet, right? They don't. They don't know the Lord. The Lord has not spoken to them. Spoken to Moses. Moses told them what to do. One thing we got to remember is this is pre-personal relationship with God kind of stuff. Moses was a conduit. There you go. Verse 9. Then Moses said to Aaron, okay, you tell him. Say to the whole congregation of the Israelites, draw near to the Lord, for he has heard your complaining. It's like, okay, all right. Again, apparently, Aaron does this because here, look at verse 10. And as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the Israelites, to the whole congregation of Israelites, they looked toward the wilderness, and the glory of the Lord appeared in a cloud. Interesting. We've seen the cloud before, right? Why is it that they are being told to look out now? Because is basically saying, oh yeah, you know that thing you see out there that there's no possibility? Well, guess what? There's all kinds of possibility. If only you'll see it. And the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, I have heard the complaining of the Israelites. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. Okay, bring it on. And what happens? Verse 13. In the evening, quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew around the camp. So first of all, the quail. Quail were migratory birds. And you know what? When they were on their way back from flying south for the winter, guess what? They would get tired. Quail have been known to tire out in their flight to the point that they would have to land. And in their resting, yeah, you know what? You could actually catch quail with your hands. Why? They're still alive, but they're just tired from the migration. So this is a natural event that is being used by God to feed his people. We get hung up on supernatural stuff. But look at this other thing. And in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. And when the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness, which is dead, nothing, right? What there was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, what is it? That's an interesting word. In Hebrew, if you were to say, what is it? You would say, manhu. What? Manhu. Manhu. Sound familiar? Yeah, manhu. If you skip to verse 31, you'll see the house of Israel called it manna. Manhu. What is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, it is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. So it wasn't literal bread. It wasn't literal bread. Moses makes it clear. No, it's not literal, but it's the bread you're going to get. Now, there's a known thing. There's some plant in the wilderness where there's a certain, an insect that will puncture it, and it leads to some sort of a transformation of it that makes it into this substance that even today, Bedouins and such, it's known to be consumed. We're not talking supernatural here. We're talking about a way God is using his creation to feed his people. It's kind of like you, when you get food from your parents. I remember getting fed from parents. I was like, I don't know where it came from, but I was always grateful. And you know what? It seemed like it came out of nowhere. It's a miracle for a kid, right? But just see that, trying to bring in the idea that this is an example of how parents treat their kids and how kids experience their loving parent of like, wow, where'd that come from? And that way, that is what's going on here. Okay, verse 16. Oh, no, that's it. That's it. That's all we need, actually, really. So what I want us to concentrate here on is sometimes, last time we saw that in the crossing of the sea, we think of it as a supernatural event. And sometimes people see this as a supernatural. There's nothing supernatural about it. God the Creator. Remember I talked about this when Jesus walked on water and the calming of the sea? When you are the creator of the world, why is using your creation to do your bidding, how is that supernatural? Huh? How is that supernatural? It's natural because it's creation. The emphasis here, I believe, and I think this was the emphasis also in the crossing of the sea, is that the creation motif, the idea that God, the God that they're dealing with, is the God that created the universe. That's what's different about Israel's religion. And here we have, once again, providing the people with what they need through already what exists in the universe. A universe created by the same God. Therefore, why does it need to be supernatural? There you go. I think next week we're going to actually get into, we might get into the actual giving of the Ten Commandments time. So now might be the time, if you haven't viewed the Ten Commandments lately, it might be fun to do so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we might actually be at that time. We'll see. We shall see. Anyway, that is our lesson for today. So ponder that. How is it that the Lord works for you and does for you, uses his creation? How does God use the created universe to bless you, to give you what you need? We don't always need to stumble on a rock that's got, money underneath it. God uses the natural world to bless us. And if we're not open to it, we're not going to see how God is at work. That's one of the things that we pray in our Eucharistic prayer, is to help us, to help us to see his work in the world about us. This is a part of that. There you go. So look for that in your life and be blessed. Happy Sunday, everybody.